Hey, hey. What's up, everybody? Just checking Facebook out over here. Okay, looking good. Instagram is looking good. Hey, y'all. It is Onjeinikab Brooks, the unmothered coach. I am in the building tonight, ready to talk to you. So if you are new here, I help women who have had difficult relationships with their mothers and lost their mothers overcome trauma, manage grief, find their voice, and reclaim their power so they can have the life that they deserve. Excuse me. Got a little tickle in my throat tonight. So that is who I am. That's what I do. I'm also the author of this book. The book is called Unmothered, A Daughter's Guide to Acceptance, Healing, and Renewal. And so usually on Thursday nights, I try to bring a topic to you that will help you with overcoming the trauma. If you have had mother-daughter issues, if you didn't get along with your mother before she passed away, then I can identify with you. And that's the reason that I wrote the book. And the book has 9 steps to healing to help you on a healing journey when you're ready to do that. And so a big part of healing is going through grief. For some people, that may be a surprise to you, but I'm going to break it down for you tonight in case you didn't know that. So grief in itself is a process. And so I have the process of grief embedded in my overall steps to healing because grief, I describe it as a catalyst. It is something that can move you forward if you allow it. But a lot of the times, we don't really recognize why grief comes and how it can be helpful to us. And so I want to get into the topic tonight. As I said, I am the unmothered coach. And so I am constantly talking to women out there who haven't had good relationships with their mothers, and specifically those that have lost their mothers. And so the grief part is really difficult. And I think it was probably the hardest part for me. And it has to do with, just start thinking. And honestly, sometimes the relationship that we have with our mother, whether she's toxic, whether she is just an emotionally detached mother, was just didn't ever show you the love and everything that you needed, wasn't there to be supportive, was just there to tell you about your shortcomings. If she, you could never do enough for her, if you were never good enough for her. Sometimes, that's the only relationship that you know. And it may cause you, in some cases, to go no contact or low contact with your mother. And if that is the case, when she passes away, it can really make grief a lot more difficult. Now, I was in that place where I had gone no contact with my mother. As strange as it seems for me, I actually got to that point where it was just really difficult to manage a lot of her behavior and the things that were going on. And so I put distance between us. And I was already living, hundreds of miles away, but I put more distance between us as far as contact, talking on the phone, checking in. And when I found out that she was sick, she had breast cancer, when I found out she was diagnosed, it was a big challenge for me to figure out what to do. And so if you were in a situation like that with your mother, or whether, you already knew she was toxic and you already put the distance between you, I think that, I know that when you lose her, it's a different story than, a relationship that is more intact. And it causes a lot more difficulty with processing the phases of grief, just because of the estranged or the stressed relationship that you have with your mother. And we have to talk about it because it's such a big part of healing. And there's no need to, to say, it'll be okay, or I don't have to think about it. No, we are going to deal with it, because if you truly want to heal, then you have to approach it and you have to do your best to manage it. And so I'm going to try my best to help you. And so we're going to break it down a little bit. And maybe if you have questions, you can put them in the chat. But maybe this will help you to move through the phases of grief if you haven't yet. And maybe this will allow you to let yourself grieve if you haven't yet. So when it comes to healing, some parts of healing are choices that you make. Some parts are decisions that you'll need to make. And some of it is a lot of forward thinking. But then there are processes, and grief is one of those. And so grief has phases. And the phases are shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance / processing, and moving forward. And so a big point for many of you out there can be the fact that your relationship with your mother has been so bad. She has mistreated you so much and just fallen short so much that you have a lot of anger. And the anger is telling you she doesn't deserve it. She doesn't deserve my tears. She doesn't deserve for me to cry for her, anymore. She doesn't deserve it. And I'm not going to allow myself to feel it. And so that's one of the things that can happen when you have come out of a very bad relationship, when you have felt like, you never got what you wanted or what you needed from her, or if you did, it was very little of the time. And what you remember is the pain and the hurt. It can cause you to become bitter, even if it's for a little while. And so you can be feeling like she doesn't deserve it. And that will be the anger talking. Disappointment can also be huge, and you can just, literally shut down because you don't know how to process the fact that this is the end now. There is no apology coming. There isn't going to be a do-over. There is no second chance. Now she's gone. She's left the earth, and you are here to deal with the carnage. You are here to pick up the pieces. You are here to fix yourself. And there's no chance of it going another way. That's how it can feel. But that is not the case. I'm here to tell you that is not the case. But it can leave you in like a state of numbness, And I believe that is really denial, which is a phase of grief. And so what I'm trying to tell you is the anger, the resentment, the pain, a lot of what you're feeling, at your mother's death or even sometime after it, is actually the phases of grief. They're just different parts. And so anger is something that you might feel even if you lost someone that was very close to you and you had a very warm and a good relationship with them. And so don't let the anger make you feel like you aren't going to, follow through and process all the way through grief. Because if you stay stuck in it, it can cause unforgiveness. It can cause bitterness that can literally suck up your time and your energy and keep you from getting to a better and a happier place. And so I want to deal with it tonight because I know it is such a huge issue. And in some cases, many of you might feel like, well, I'm literally betraying myself to grieve for this woman who was never there for me, who no matter what, she should have known better. She knew how to act in front of other people. She knew how to pretend and how to portray herself to be a good mother. But behind closed doors, she talked to me this kind of way. Or she was, verbally abusive or physically abusive in some cases. Or she was just mean. And she, would not allow herself to be in touch with the bond that we should have had. And so, it can feel like betrayal to yourself because she didn't do any of what you expected or needed. And I want to say to you right now that I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you had to feel that. I had to feel that too. And so for some of our mothers, they are not nurturers and they weren't meant to be that to us. I know it sounds strange, but they weren't meant to be that to us. And so we have to understand that. But the bond that is there between a mother and child. Even if your mother didn't do anything to cultivate it, even if she didn't take care of your feelings and of, the relationship like she should have, there is still a recognition that that's your mother. And so I'm going to say deep down inside you, there is a little girl that is probably crying for her mother and crying for the fact that she is gone. And you need to allow it. So don't suppress it. You need to allow it. And if it's anger that you feel, let it out. Let it out. If you have things to get off your chest and things to say, let it out. I am big on writing. And so, I journaled so much. There was so much that I had to get out, even before I could write the book. The book was very cathartic itself, but there was a lot I had to get out, like things I wanted to say to my mother. And so, these are some of the things that we'll do, like if you're in the course with me in the coaching program. But you need to get that out because it helps to verbalize what you're feeling. And the anger is okay. And so you just have to let yourself know that just because you didn't have a good relationship doesn't mean you're not feeling the loss. In fact, it is what I call a double loss. And in some cases, a triple loss. Now let me explain that. I almost called the book a double loss because of how intense the pain was that I was feeling. And I didn't understand where the pain was coming from. Losing her, I thought was all about her going through cancer and how bad things were, whenever anyone has cancer. I thought it was more about that and the struggle and the hurt that I felt watching her go through that. But writing the book, I learned that it was a double loss because I never got the chance to grieve the mother-daughter relationship that we weren't going to have. I spent so much time fighting with my mother, trying to make her do the right things, trying to show her how to be supportive, literally giving her the words that you should say. Where did I get the words? I had a grandmother who was amazing, and so I knew how I should be talked to. So I spent a lot of time going back and forth with my mother, and it felt like I was the parent some of the time, like I couldn't understand what was going on. But I spent all that time battling with her, and never did I realize I wasn't going to get what I wanted. And so when she passed away, I had never given up on the dream that I was going to have this fantastic mother. And so for those of us who had that relationship, if you did not get a chance to let that vision, let that person go, then I encourage you to let that be the first part of your grieving process. Is to think about the fact, hi to you guys that have joined, is to think about the fact that that vision, wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't meant to be. And we can say that it wasn't meant to be now because she's not here and you are. So that vision that you had wasn't going to happen. It deserves its own grief. You have to, that is a different loss than the physical loss of your mother. And I do break this down in the book where I talk about the 3 parts of grief in a bit more detail than I'll be able to go into tonight. But it's a different feeling when you realize, oh, hey, we're not going to be best friends. We're not going to, be going shopping. And, when I get a promotion, I'm not going to be able to call her and share that with her. And that's because you were never able to do that with her. Or if you did, like in my case, you got something negative back. Or, you got ignored. And so you have to let go of the vision that you had for what you thought that relationship was going to be. And it is difficult to do it. But in letting that go and in grieving the mother-daughter relationship that you are not going to have and that you probably never really had, it will allow you to move to the part of where you might actually miss your mother. Whether she deserved it or not, that is who she is. And I don't know a way to break that bond of who she is. She brought you here, or she took care of you here if you were adopted or taken in. And so that is who she is. And so You might miss the voice. You might miss hearing her. You might miss seeing her. I certainly did. And I felt so deeply that even though I knew the kind of relationship we had, I still would have chosen for her to be here. Even though I knew the fights, I knew what was going on, I knew the pain, I had even gone no contact, I still would have preferred her to be here. And part of it was maybe there was a chance that God would fix her heart and she would be the mother I wanted. And then there was just the fact that my mother would still be here on earth. And so don't deny that. Allow yourself to feel it, because the denial part is a phase of grief, but you have to eventually come out of it to get through the grieving process. So if you're able to look at it now and say, okay, I've been feeling some of this. I never really dealt with the fact that we didn't have a relationship. I do miss her voice, or I do miss knowing she's here or seeing her face, even though she might upset me. I could deal with that part. The other part could be her potential. Like when my mother was sick, it was really difficult to see how things had played out in her life, to understand that the greatness that she could have achieved wasn't going to happen. And so that's why I say there were 3 parts to that grief. And so I encourage you to take time with each part. And whether it's the mother-daughter relationship, whether it's her lost potential, or just her physically not being here, I encourage you to deal with it, and deal with it separately. Take your time with it. There is no time period that, they put on grief. I've read some books, and none of them that I've ever seen have said you have to stop grieving. Now, there is a point where it can go into depression. Oh, you're welcome. There is a point where it can go into depression, and so you do have to be very careful of that. If it becomes depression that is affecting you, like you're not able to work for an extensive amount of time, or you're not able to function and to eat, then that's when you would need to see a mental health professional, or even your primary doctor would really be helpful. So if you notice that that's happening, then that's unusual. So you do need to watch out for that. But otherwise, it is okay and it is normal to work through these phases of grief. What you don't want to do is avoid it and suppress it, because avoiding it and suppressing it is when problems occur. There is more room out in the world for you to share what's going on with you than for you to bottle it up and keep it in here. And I heard that from someone else, a woman that was doing a hair video, but I just love the way she explained that. There's much more room outside. So even though it feels like she doesn't deserve it, she hurt me, that is the pain. That is the loss talking. But go with it and let it out. Journal it out. Join a community. There are grief management communities all around. Do whatever you need to move through it, but address it, because it is so tied to your healing. Grief is like I said, it's a catalyst. And don't think that you have to stop feeling the hurt. You may never stop feeling the hurt, because as somebody else put it, grief is the proof that we've loved. You loved somebody. You did love her somewhere deep down in there, and you may never stop feeling the hurt. But it doesn't mean that you have to stay in bitterness and that you have to stop your life from moving forward. So that's what this is about. That is why grief is a huge part of my healing program, because you need it in order to get to the next step. It is the catalyst that takes you to the next step, which is why when you look at the phases of grief, which are shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, processing, and moving, the moving is when you get to go to the next step, because you've gone through the phases. And so once you do that, you have dealt with the loss, and you're able to begin pouring into yourself and allowing others to do that. And so that's what happens. Our mothers may not have been nurturers. They may not have been who we wanted them to be. But when we can grieve the loss of what we thought was going to happen, it does help us make room and prepare for what's coming, for the future, for the better things. And I'll leave you with this. Just understand that even though it's painful, it's necessary. It's necessary. I don't know of a way to heal without allowing yourself to feel the loss. And so whether you have to cry, whether you need to take up, like running or some kind of exercise or movement, do that because it's necessary. It's necessary for you mentally to move forward. And so I just think, it's a tough topic. I'm going to deal with it more. I have talked about it before, but I haven't talked about it in detail with the pain and the anger that we feel sometimes. And so we need to express that, and we need to get that out, and we need to talk about the disappointments as well. And then there are times where maybe you need to talk about the difficulties that, you saw your mother go through, if she was terminally ill like mine was, or if it was something tragic. We can talk about all of it here. It's a safe space. I understand. I probably should put some trigger warnings on here for people that don't want to wander on here, but I really want to make it open for those of you that find it helpful. And so that's what I'm doing tonight. This is my story as well as your story if you have lost a mother and didn't have a good relationship with her and are struggling with the grief part. All right, so I'm here for you. So that's what I have for you tonight. Just talking about the phases of grief. So if you have questions, you can put them down below, or you can even DM me if you want to talk more about it. I do have free consultations, and so you can go to my website. Actually, go to the link in my bio too, and you can schedule time with me there. I am very happy to listen to you. That is what I do, and I will see if I can help you. So also want to remind you, my digital course is open. And so if you want to sign up, that is also in my bio, the link to it. There are details on the website to tell you more about it. It's a 4-week boot camp that walks you through the healing journey. Okay, guys? Well, I hope that everybody has a wonderful fall and a wonderful Thursday evening. The weather's getting cooler, so I hope you can enjoy it. Before you know it, we're going to be, in the cold part. So let's have some fun right now. So I hope you have a good Thursday night and a wonderful weekend. Bye.